I always had like a positive attitude though. I never had, even all the shit that I've gone through as far as like living in the car, like, you know, maybe some of the crazy fights or the divorce I've been through, I've never had like a down and out attitude. I've always tried to be like upbeat, and part of that was like, you know, trying to hide your feelings and stuff at the time. You know, you didn't want anybody to see, like my dad taught me, don't let anybody ever see that you're weak at any point, you know? So I would hide all that shit and just like laugh it off. I was a jokester, you know, and it all kind of manifested, I guess, throughout the years after that. Action. 3, 2, 1, action. The drive that I have now, definitely, you know, when I was still kind of coming through everything, I didn't know I was going to be doing this. You know what I mean? I lifted because I was a fat kid and I wanted to lose a bunch of weight. So I got motivated in a different way, you know what I mean, through fitness or whatever. And it became an addiction. You know, I was addicted to the way that the changes I started making, the way that I looked and felt. So I was gonna do like 1 or 2 here. The next set, I had to do 425 for a single, then a box jump, then rest. Like back and forth for a minute. I land pretty nimbly, right? Kind of soft.
I think it's flat now.
It's only 305 pounds jumping up there. It's not too bad. That's Josh Bryant, man. That's his coaching. That's what he's got me doing. But through the whole deadlift prep cycle, that's what I've been doing. So that 805 for 3 I pulled last week was the same fucking warm up, you know. So, and then even after, you'll see after the main set what the rest of the workout looks like, which is even more brutal. In my opinion, it's harder than deadlifting over 800 pounds for sure. That's what he does. He smokes my back and my fucking legs before I even start deadlifting. So basically, I'm pulling at a disadvantage pretty much, you know? Fucking, I'm already worn out, I'm already tired. What is it about the deadlift that I love is, I know, it's just a lift like insanity, you know what I mean? It's like fucking go balls out. Just, that's always been something I've always been kind of good at too. Like when I first started lifting, it was, I was okay at bench, I was okay at squatting, but I didn't like squatting like the way that I felt. About the deadlift, there was just something about just the weight just all laying there and knowing that I could pick up, you know, so many plates on the bar at one time, and that it was my strongest lift, even when I was at like my weakest point. It just looked cool to me, just something picking it off the ground, you know, and fucking standing there like a maniac screaming and shit. I was a CO, man. I had to sneak up on inmates. Jump down from top rails. Quiet as fuck. Got your ass.
We normally see guys work out, and we're like, man, we work out harder than all these fucking guys, but I think yours is a little different.
Mine?
Yeah, I think you actually work out fucking hard.
I think I do, yeah. I think I do. I like to say that about myself from time to time. What goes through my head and the things that kind of, I guess, fired me up, you know, before the deadlift, that's changed like over time, you know, like when I was first starting to lift, it wasn't always like that. It was, so, you know, it was fueled differently, but now, like, what I reflect on now is like some of the things I went back, like, you know, in my life, like with a divorce, you know, some of the homelessness I talked about, living in my car and stuff like that. Just things from the past, you know what I mean? Just trying to get all riled up and just put it all into just that one, you know, that one moment, you know. I had an apartment. I was working at one point. This was prior to living in my car. I was dating a girl. She lived with me in the apartment. We broke up. She ended up moving out, so the stress on me to have to maintain the apartment, you know, it was a pretty large place. My name was the one on the lease. So I continued to like maintain and do what I could to live in this apartment. I looked like such a soft ass at Cheesecake Factory today. Do you see my Snap story? He gets a hamburger, I got Thai lettuce wraps. I put fit chick on the fucking the Snap story. I'm in this apartment with this big ass rent. You know, I think it was like $1,600 a month. I was only like 19 years old, you know. So I'm trying to figure out what I could do, where I could work, you know, to try to make the ends meet. I ended up missing a rent payment. They sent me notices. I tried to work it out with them. It didn't work out. I missed another rent payment, and then I'm getting like eviction notices.
Time to get faster and faster now. Oh, that was what, like, I think that was 5:15, like 6:05.
When I'm coming back to the apartment, the sheriff's department was there. They took all my stuff and they put it on the grass, you know. So I pull up to all my stuff out there. It wasn't much, but you know, it's all I had. I bought this Crown Victoria from a taxi cab driver for 300 bucks. I just packed everything in the trunk of this car, which was like all my clothes, like some toiletries, and you know, whatever miscellaneous items I could fit in there.
Now, like, I gotta really start concentrating on the technique, you know. Just make sure I stay really tight, everything, you know. Like the other shit's like you're just throwing it around, like you're just trying to get the rep. I mean, you still want to do it good, but you're just throwing the reps around. Now it's like, all right, now the weight's gonna start getting heavy. So
I ended up going to the place I normally would go would be the gym. Ended up just parking in the parking lot, and you know, there's a 24-hour gym, so I had showers, laundry, all that stuff. You know, I didn't have laundry, but I ended up becoming friends with the staff there that they would let me wash my clothes like when it was more dead. And then you know, some of those nights that it was either really cold or it was too hot, like I would leave my car running when I would sleep. Sometimes I would sleep in the back seat, and sometimes it was not restful sleep, you know, any noise and stuff. Every once in a while police would wake you up, you know, just ask you what you're doing. So I ended up like taking my pillow and my blanket and sleeping in tanning beds, you know, at the gym. But I mean, it was quite a long time that I was, you know, traveling around from gym to gym or in the parking lots or sleeping on construction sites or something like that.
this will be, I just did 695, this will be 7 to 85. And then I'll go right to 855 after that. So instead of wasting a bunch of energy trying to pull, you know, like an in-between, like 825 or something like that, I'd rather just like blow all of it on that, on the last one. Yeah, let's go, baby.
Come on, Steve! Go, motherfucker, rip it up!
They're probably not gonna want me to talk about this stuff, but so earlier on, like as a kid, and this is like through talks with my mom. My mom's very open about stuff like this now. So I remember at a point in time, and I called my mom out on it, and just on a question, and I said, hey, is there any time that you guys did like some hardcore drugs, you know, when I was a kid? And she's like, well, what are you talking about? And I described this one scene where I remember my mom smoking crack, you know. So hold on a second. So doing like crack and like cocaine, shit like that. So I picture my mom doing like some crack, some cocaine, my dad as well. And I just asked her, I was like, did you guys ever do this? And I told her the story. And she denied it, and then later on she came back. She's like, I can't believe you remember some shit like that. And I was like, yeah, it's weird, you know, like tell me kind of how that happened. She said, well, they were basically addicted to drugs, so. One second, guys. They lived in an area of the city, because I grew up in Chicago, so we grew up in kind of a rough neighborhood, you know. They were friends with known drug dealers or gang members, you know. And their business was selling cocaine and crack, you know. You're talking like the 1980s, so that was when it was really blowing up, especially in Chicago. So my parents got hooked on some stuff, you know, and
they liked to party. That's what they did, you know. And I was introduced to like multiple people as a kid as this is Uncle Ed or this is Uncle so-and-so. And I always wonder, like, you know, they don't seem like they'd be relatives, you know, they look different, you know. And but obviously your parents are just making up excuses to whatever, you know. So my uncle had a like appliances store, and our family lived in the back of that store. So he, my mom said one day, you know, they were just sick and tired of all the stuff they were doing, and the guy that was selling them the drugs that had them hooked, they were constantly buying. My mom said they were like stealing stuff. You know, all the cliche things you hear about like what an addict would do in order to get like their fix, you know what I mean? Stealing stuff, you know, mainly to sell, to get money to buy stuff, you know. So all this time my parents had us as kids, you know, me and my younger brother who was basically just a baby. And I was too, I was only, you know, maybe almost 2 years old or so. And my mom said they were watching the news, and one of the local churches, they had a Virgin Mary, and it was like tearing like blood out of its eyes. So, you know, when something religious happens like that, people come from all over to like, you know, say their prayers or whatever. So my mom did, and her her prayer was to get off drugs. And she said like that night, that they people were pounding on their door. They wanted, let's party. They had like an 8-ball of cocaine, and then they ended up like just all these people. My mom said it was like 5 people just trying to get in the house saying let's party, and they didn't let that happen. My mom said they were able to go cold turkey. Never did drugs again from that point. So
your whole life turned around at that point.
I think so.
For you.
Yeah.
Who knows where you'd be, right?
Yeah, I think if they didn't do that stuff, who knows? I mean, like maybe I would have barely, you know, survived childhood. Like, I mean, we were poor. Like, we lived like Section 8 housing, you know, like government housing. We lived on food stamps for half my life. Like, so they were poor, you know. But my mom and dad, they always had like a drive to like work. So my dad always had like two or three jobs at one point. My mom as well. My mom wasn't like, you know, they're not like college graduates or not shit like that, but hard workers though.
Most I ever pulled was 843 at the US Open. I attempted I think it was 850, 855 I think it was, or 854, and I got it to my knees. But the way that training's been going now has been like, you know, fucking blowing shit up, so I think it'll move pretty good. It was working, man. It fucked my PR up. I came all the way here to Phoenix, and I can't get my song, man.
Yeah! Come on! The headline speed, let's go! Yeah! Come on! Come on, speed! Yeah, bitch, come on! Let's go, motherfucker! Come on, speed! Let's go, motherfucker! Let's pick shit up, let's go! Ah! Fuck yeah! Fuck yeah! Move that motherfucker!
Fucking A, dude.
You could have pulled 9.
So sick.
You could have pulled
so sick, man. Oh, that makes me so happy. Because I missed this. I think it was a little bit under this at the 3rd attempt at the US Open, you know? And it moved much slower, you know what I mean? I've been blowing these up, dude, like crazy. Honestly, you know what it is like, I still get hyped up, but if you notice, I don't get as crazy. Like, people aren't slapping me and like talking all this shit. I'll like do my little fucking yelling thing, whatever, to get like ready to go. But I don't waste all this energy anymore. I just set up now and just fucking go. All right, so now the workout starts.
Shit, now I gotta start training.
Yeah, so.
What do you do now?
Now I gotta pull 405 pounds against the pins, and then rest 2 minutes, a 600-pound deadlift, then rest 2 minutes, back and forth 3 times. But I think the goal after this is November. I'm gonna try to beat the all-time world record. That's Konstantin Kosanov, who's like one of the best deadlifters in the world at the time, you know? So I wanna fucking, that's 939. So I wanna have to pull 940 plus, you know?
Yeah, I did 855 here. That was a PR. I don't doubt at any time that I could have pulled it, but with the amount of ease that I pulled it and how fast I pulled it, I kind of shocked myself.
He's gonna stand behind me in case I fucking knock out.
He does?
In case I do.
You pass out sometimes doing
No, there's been a couple times I felt like I was gonna go out.
I mean, it's a lot of work. A lot of people they see on Instagram, they're like, they question like, oh, you know, how do you get to this level? What do you do? And I try to explain to them, and they're like, you do all this work, you know, they can't believe it. The way that I see it, warming up to the 425 squat even, and the box jumps, I'm basically already in like a deficit as far as my work goes. So now I have to like struggle through that and still be able to pull this heavy lift that's on the board for today.
But this is like, cause I'm already tired, you know what I mean? So, but this is basically what makes or break you. Yeah. This is the shit that people don't want to do. This is all they want, Instagram video, you know? Because people still see like my videos. I do the top set, but they don't see what comes after it. Because I normally don't post. Everybody wants to see the top set shit, but they don't realize how much more work goes into it.
I was a sheriff's officer for 9.5 years. I quit the job, just didn't agree with the way certain things were running. And I felt like my talent, and that I had a talent or a skill set that was just being wasted, sitting there in a chair every day looking at inmates. I feel like I just had something more to offer to everybody else than me just being a lifter. I took the risk, left the job, took my money, invested it in a bunch of stuff. So I'm put back in a spot where I don't have much money, but I feel like I work the best when my back's up against the wall and I can't lose, you know what I mean? Because I have to work or I can't survive.
So I'm almost done basically. And that bar's gotta go to 495. So I'll do my sets and reps here. Then I got rows, then I got the overhand hold, and I'm done. All right, 15 seconds is the goal.
I took all my money, invested in this gym in Chicago called Chicago Barbell Compound. And then also in the podcast, you know, and just trying to offer, I guess, my insight on the sport and just trying to bring another angle to the fitness industry and, you know, also me as a coach and training my own athletes as well. Just, I mean, head first into it. It's really honestly a passion, you know, and I don't want to waste my passion sitting at a desk every day. Even though the income was steady, I was making money. I had health insurance. I had lots of benefits. I had, you know, a great county government job, but I just wasn't happy, you know, and I wasn't content with sitting there knowing that I'm getting all this stuff, but just knowing every day, walking through the gate, that I just can't wait to leave and go home because I just hate it. You know, like that wasn't worth the money to me. So trying to take these big ass risks and you know, hopefully it all manifests into something that I thought, but I'm not gonna slow down. I'm gonna continue growing. I got no choice basically.